What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wildcast podcast. Justin Spears here with Mike Lev talking about Arizona's big win over the Kansas Jayhawks, a bowl berth clinching win for the Arizona Wildcats, getting to a bowl game in year two under Brent Brennan. That was, sort of the expectation for Arizona was, yes, there's a lot of new faces, there's a lot of newcomers, but they feel like they have the coaches in place and they can get to bowl eligibility. Well, now they did that. They beat Kansas 24-20 for what was a really awesome game. I mean, down to the wire. There were some moments where, both teams struggled for sure, especially Arizona offensively. But, man, what a wild finish. What a way to get to bowl eligibility. In order to get to the postseason, to get to that 13th game, Lev, Arizona really, they had to earn it, and they learned how to win.
This was not a pretty game. It was not a perfect game. It was a gritty game. It was a gutsy game. It was one where they just had to kind of stick with it, right? As SVP and Stanford Steve say, stay in the fight.
Yeah.
They scored at the very end of the first half. They scored at the very end of the second half, right? Quincy Craig, responsible for both of those, and named a Big 12 co-offensive player of the week this week. Very cool for someone who had 7 touches, I think, in that game, something like that. Maybe five
touches. Yeah.
5 touches, 2 touchdowns.
How about that?
Pretty good deal.
Trace Spivey-esque.
Very much so. So to me, this is a good sign for the development of the program, because sometimes when you go out there on Saturday, you are not going to have your best stuff. Right? Your fastball, which is normally 97, maybe it's only 94, right? Tiger Woods used to call it his A game. Tiger Woods was able to, I'm not comparing Arizona to Tiger Woods, but the point is Tiger Woods would sometimes say, I didn't have my A game. He still found a way to win. This was one of those find a way to win type of performances. And it's a credit to the coaching staff and the culture and the togetherness and the character that this team has. I think this team has strong character. There's another big test coming up this Friday, and we'll talk about this Saturday, and we'll talk about it more on our midweek podcast. But good character win, good program win, and hey, you got to figure out where we got to figure out where we're going in late December, and that's one of the questions that we'll get to here in the mailbag in a few minutes.
Before we get more into Arizona football's big win over Kansas and just a gutty win for the Wildcats and answer your mailbag questions like Lev said, man, what a week for Arizona athletics. And what a week for Tucson sports. I mean, starting like last week, right? Arizona beating the defending national champs, Florida, in men's basketball. Koa Pete, nice little 30-piece. Had, in my opinion, the best debut by any Arizona Wildcat. Just impressive stuff there from Koa Pete, who was also named Big 12 Player of the Week, if I'm not mistaken, or co-player of the week, or he earned some weekly honor, whether it was I think it might have been.
They have a thing called the starting five.
Oh, maybe that's what
they do for both men and women. And that might have been
okay.
Let me see.
We're recording this early Monday afternoon. That's like right when all these awards are going out. But regardless, Koa Pete had just an absolute masterclass. Great performance there. And then, they carried over to the weekend where they beat Utah Tech at home. And so great start for the Arizona men's basketball team. And then Arizona volleyball beating number 21 BYU. Cool court there at McHale Center. I like their blue and red court that they've added. And then the Arizona women's basketball program, they got their first wins under head coach Becky Burke. And then swimming and diving, they got 2 top 25 victories over the LA schools. And then we got tennis earning 2 bids to NCAAs. And then this is kind of the cherry on top. Arizona Triathlon winning back-to-back national championships. They dethroned last year in year 2 under Wesley Johnson. They dethroned ASU, which had won like the previous 6. They went on like a Chicago Bulls 1990s run in triathlon and were just completely dominant. And then here come the Arizona Wildcats under Wesley Johnson. He puts together this team of players, of athletes from, other sports on campus and recruits players and gets athletes from international countries. And then their headliner is Kelly Wetland, who won the individual championship last year, and then she won the individual championship again. And we had Wesley Johnson on Spears and Ali a couple weeks ago or last week leading up to the championship. And he said that Kelly Wetland, she's listed as a senior, but she can come back for another year. Like, we're talking about maybe one of the best athletes to ever play at the University of Arizona in Kelly Wetland. And Wesley Johnson in Arizona, they dethroned ASU last year. And then this year they go up there to Tempe and win it there. And 2 national championships in 3 years. Lev, they've won the national championship more than they have not. That's just impressive stuff right there.
Yeah, I sat in on the news conference that they had last week to preview the national championship. And the first thing that came to mind, it was Kelly Wetland and a couple of her teammates. I'm like, God, these girls are so small. Like, we're so used to even covering women's basketball. They're usually like 6 feet or so. Football, men's basketball, these are like large people. These were like normal sized women who obviously are in unbelievably good shape because of the sport that they play. But they were very impressive in terms of just how poised they were in that interview setting. They were very confident. You got a good sense that they were going to go up and do something special again, which they did. Circling back to Koa Pete, he was the Big 12 player of the week, the newcomer of the week, and made the starting 5. The starting 5 is, I guess, a new thing that they're doing, which I think is really smart because it just gives you an opportunity to highlight more players across the league. I mean, there's 16 teams that play basketball, both men and women. So, and there's a gazillion games. Why not highlight more than just like those 2 award winners, right? So the starting 5 is like the top 5 players of the week. Good feature, good marketing. But yeah, I think a lot of positive vibes around Arizona athletics right now.
No doubt.
Which is great. I mean, that's what you want. I think men's basketball's got a game against, who do they have on Tuesday? NAU, and then they go and play UCLA on Friday night. So kind of a big one right there. The women are off until Sunday. They host Grambling State. Their non-conference schedule is not what you call Murderer's Row, but they are also a new team with a lot of new parts, and they're figuring things out. And maybe that's the best thing for them. I would have definitely liked to have seen them play at least one road game before Big 12 play starts, because that could be kind of a shock to the system when they go to a Big 12 venue and don't have the comforts of McHale Center. But hey, can't 2-0, can't ask for much more. And it seemed like I didn't get to see the game on Sunday. I had another obligation, but it seemed like they played better in the second game than the first, that's what Becky Burke is looking for. She wants steady improvement over the course of the season.
Also, didn't want to exclude the other sports happening in Tucson, Arizona. The Tucson Roadrunners, they won their game on Saturday against the Coachella Valley Firebirds as well. So lots of winning in Southern Arizona these days, Lev. Lots of winning, including Arizona football.
Yeah. So, one of the things that people cited when we were, complaining about attendance at football games earlier in the season, or just noting that attendance wasn't that great, was team needs to win, right?
Sure.
We thought that Colorado game was very significant for that, right? You come home 5-2 as opposed to 4-3. You would have had a big losing streak going on. I'm sorry, 5-3 versus 4-4, right? Sorry, 5-3 versus 4-4. They would have had a 3-game losing streak. They blew out Colorado. And then we get to Saturday, and it seemed like nobody wanted to sit in the sun. The visual from the press box, which is also the side that the TV cameras are on, was not great, right? The northern end zone was 1/3 full, maybe. Aside from the Zona Zoo, the east side stands were not really well populated, right? And this has been a year-long, maybe 2-year-long topic of discussion. A lot of people have responded on social media to any sort of attendance-related posts with all kinds of reasons why that's the case. let's talk about it a little bit, Justin.
Sure.
Like, what do you think? What do you think this is all about?
I don't know. I really don't know. And some of the comments I've seen, like one guy said, well, I like large TVs. I like comfort. I like being at home, and that's just kind of, how people are nowadays. Right. And honestly, rightfully so. You get up, you don't got to go to a public bathroom. You got your own bathroom there. You can watch the game on a nice big TV. You've got all the snacks and drinks, and you're comfortable being there. However, the thing is that I, try to look at is, well, you can't complain about the best players leaving the program because, they're chasing dollars elsewhere. You contribute to Arizona athletics having money for their athletic department, right? Like, there's a reason why Desiree Reed-Francois added the competitive fee. And she was like, I know I'm a very popular person because of that right now. Well, they want to make sure that in this new era of collegiate athletics, they want to be competitive. They want to be considered, one of the top tier programs. And Lev, I think that another thing that really frustrates me about like the attendance is I grew up in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen Arizona Stadium, even when Mike Stoops had bad teams, like that stadium was full. No matter what time of day it was, like that stadium was always full. So I don't know what it's going to take to get back to that. I don't know if this is like a pandemic thing, like if just people after the pandemic, like people just, I don't know, kind of stop going to games. I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is. But it would be nice to see more people go to games. And, one more thing I would like to add is, I've been to other Big 12 venues, and it's so much better than the Pac-12 first and foremost.
Aside from Houston, right?
Yes. And this is the big thing. So the environments that I would say Arizona is better than that I've been to, there's two. Houston, number one. Number two, UCF. UCF had some juice just because of the student section and the space game and all that. But outside of that, UCF wasn't really anything to write home about.
Okay.
But think about this. That's Orlando. That's a vacation city. You go to Disney World. Like, you don't go to Orlando to go watch UCF football, right? Houston is the fifth biggest city in the United States right now, right? Or one of the largest. It's a big city, kind of like Los Angeles, right? Where people just don't go to UCLA football games, right? And so, but I'm like, that's a pro town. That's a pro sports town. I get it in that sense. What else is going on in Tucson, Arizona? Now, there are youth sports happening, right? Like youth football, youth other sports. There's other things happening in Tucson. I'm not just going to say that Arizona football is the kind of sport where you got to shut down the town and get to Arizona Stadium. No, there's things to do in Tucson, Arizona, but it's just I don't know. I don't know what happened with the juice that I used to see at Arizona Stadium growing up, even when the teams were losing. Well, now the team is winning, and I feel like Brent Brennan has done a solid job in restoring that. Arizona's 5-1 at home, so at least Arizona's going to be competitive in this game or probably win. So, yeah, attendance is something that has been really a head scratcher this year, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it, to be sure. As I understand it, schools have more say so on kickoff times for homecoming, and Arizona actually chose to have an afternoon game for homecoming. Probably didn't expect it to be 86 degrees or whatever it was. I mean, next weekend, by the time you get back from Cincinnati, Justin, the temperature here is going to drop. It might be like in the 60s for the home finale against Baylor, no matter what time they kick off. We don't know that yet, which would make things more pleasant. Obviously, a lot of people are struggling financially right now, and I'm not gonna fault anyone if they're experiencing tough times and they only have so much discretionary income, right?
My only pushback on that, Lev, is so were the people in 2008.
That's true. That was a recession time. Yes. And there's only 7 home football games a year.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look, this is totally anecdotal, but I went out to the El Charro restaurant on Sunrise on Friday night. It was packed. A lot of restaurants are like that. I feel like people would just rather maybe spend their discretionary income on restaurants than they would go into a football game. Which, with those 2.5-minute commercial breaks that pop up every 10 minutes, I kind of get it. But I thought, well, one of our followers, Steve Molina, put it well on the app formerly known as Twitter today when when the news came out that there was going to be a 6-day window for the Baylor kickoff, and I said, basically said this is the new excuse for not coming to the game. Don't know, early enough, when the kickoff time is going to be, which does suck. Like that does suck for fans. No one likes the 6-day window, but he said this will make the 43rd excuse for fans this year. Too late, too early, too hot, too cold, too expensive, despite 5 different sales that occurred. Parking, game day experience, which is actually awesome now. Sound system, DJ, no DJ. Like we could just go on and on and on. And it just seemed like I've heard too, like, oh, they never have good attendance for homecoming, or they never have good attendance for family weekend. Well, when do you have good attendance? Right? Someone said that they have kids in youth sports. Totally get it. Been there, done that. That is understandable, especially when it's an afternoon game. So then do people in Ames, Iowa not have kids in youth sports? Do people in Manhattan, Kansas not have kids in youth sports? I think they do. You know what the population of Pima County is, Justin? It is over 1 million people.
Yeah.
Over 1 million people. So what percentage of that population would need to come to Arizona Stadium to sell it out? That's a pretty small percentage to me.
Very small percentage.
And we haven't talked to Desiree Reed-Francois about this recently, but I'm sure she's frustrated. I'm also sure she would never really express that publicly. But I think that's 0.5%.
0.05.
I'm sorry, 0.0005.
Yeah.
Of percent, if I'm right here. 0.0005% of the population. 50,000 divided by a million. Are we doing this right?
I think it's 0.05. At least that's
what I did. Okay.
I just typed in 50,000 divided by a million at Google, and it came up.
But that's 0.05. But then I hit the percentage button on my calculator. So percentage, isn't that 0.0005? This is great podcasting, by the way. This will surely win us some awards here as I try to figure out how to do a math problem. But the announced attendance has been decent, right? It's been over 40,000. But when you look out there, that visual, it's not a good look.
No,
it's not good for recruiting. I'll tell you that much. We've heard some things people have said. Oh, this, why do you keep referencing Jed Fish? Like, this is bad for recruiting. I don't think that has any impact on recruiting. But when you go to the stadium and it's kind of like the vibe is just kind of meh, that's not good for recruiting.
Well, yeah, you know what it feels like sometimes? Yeah. Like, I've been to events like this, like in high school, where kids have this big grand birthday party, and it's in this big ass ballroom, or it's in a hotel or something like that, at a DoubleTree, and there's 10 people there. It's like an event that should have a venue that should have hundreds of people, but it's only got a dozen people. Because I think Arizona, in terms of the graphics and the music and everything, they're trying to do a good job of engaging people. And it seems like there's this big party going on, and there's just hardly anybody there.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that the stadium itself is okay. It needs to be modernized. So I don't think that helps. It would be really helpful if you could create some sort of a shade structure in the new Arizona Stadium that gets built 20 years from now, right? Canopies, I think, would make a big difference, especially if you have afternoon games. Smaller capacity, honestly, make it a hard ticket to get. That's a kind of a supply and demand thing. Lower the supply and maybe you increase the demand. And I think the biggest factor, the one that I have seen cited the most from our fans and followers, is not being a consistent winner over the past however many years, especially compared to men's basketball.
Yeah.
Like, right, with a handful of exceptions, men's basketball is always in the NCAA tournament, right? They're always at least like a Final Four, like, contender, whether that's realistic or not. They're like in the conversation. It's been that way since the mid 80s, right? So legit, like 40-year run. Arizona football had a great run under Dick Tomey, obviously. Pretty good under Mike Stoops, very good under Rich Rod, but a lot of ups and downs. Like, you're kind of riding the roller coaster. I think fans are just sort of, I don't know, conditioned to disappointment.
Yeah.
In some way. And maybe that's what it is, right? I think we talked about this earlier on a previous pod. Like, Oklahoma State still having good attendance despite being terrible is a product of them being really good for almost 2 decades, right? Always going to bowl games, always being above 500. So I don't know. Maybe there needs to be more winning. Maybe if they finish the year 8-4 with a win over Arizona State in the Territorial Cup, like, the first game next year will be sold out, and this will be sort of past this issue. But I'm kind of skeptical about that, because we just haven't seen it, and I still don't fully understand it.
Well, I'm hopeful that next year, because assuming Noah Fafita comes back, you've got QB1. It's the last time that you're going to see one of the greatest quarterbacks in Arizona football history, who, by the way, he's tied Nick Foles and Willie Tuitama for the most career passing touchdowns. I mean, this guy's going to write his name as the leader of all Arizona passing stats when it's all said and done. So next year is probably going to be your last opportunity to go see that. And then I think, after, we'll see what the rest of the season holds, but, they're returning a handful of guys back. I would assume maybe Genesis Smith decides to come back for another season and get ready, and become a better NFL draft prospect. I thought that Genesis would be maybe an NFL draft prospect right now. But, he's a really good player, but, there are some things that I think he could, polish up. And I think another year at Arizona could do him some good, especially in Danny G's system. And also, like, kind of being the guy, being the leader of the pack, right? Where right now the leaders are Traydon Stukes and Dalton Johnson. So this is going to be a very fun team. I mean, it's a fun team right now. Like, they're so much better than they were last year. And as crazy as last year, they had Jonas Avianaya and Tetairoa McMillan and Tyler Loop and all these other big names. But I think from top to bottom, this team is so much better. And I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth going out to Arizona Stadium. But next year, no doubt, I think now that they're, bowl eligible, now that's the expectation. I think they should draw some more people next year.
Yes. On paper, they have a lot of promising returners, right? Headlined by Noah, I think maybe 3 offensive linemen who you feel like could start for them, led by Alexander Deuced. You've got Kedrick Risino and the 2 freshman running backs. You've got Quincy Craig. Yeah, he's another one who's got another year. You've got Gio Richardson and Isaiah Mizell. Tyler Powell and Kellen Ford at tight end coming off of injuries. We talked about they actually have a good nucleus along the defensive line. Myron Robinson at linebacker. Hello. That dude looks good. Now, look, they're going to have to pay a lot of these guys. That is the reality of college football now in order to retain them. And I'm just going to warn everybody, if you see some surprising guys put their names in the portal or leave, the primary reason they would do that is probably money. It's not because they don't like the coaches. It's not because they don't like Arizona. That is just the reality of how this works. But this is actually, Justin, a great segue into the mailbag.
Let's do it.
Because this question here from Carl Hansen is, maybe it's too early to bring up, but who would Arizona football be looking to add and who might be headed for the exit via the portal? I don't have any names right now as far as guys they'd be looking at. It's going to be wild. There's going to be all kinds of guys. I would say a position that they probably will be looking at would be center on offense, because you lose Kayana DeCambra. They don't really have a obvious successor. Grayson Stovall is still around, who's a good program guy and a good backup, but not necessarily someone that they view as a starter. You've got Deuce coming back. You've got Rhino Tapatotai coming back. He's a tackle. You've got Michael Wooten. He's probably a guard, maybe a tackle. Matthew Lotto. None of these guys are centers. So that would be, to me, the position where that would be my number one, top of the board, biggest need in the portal when the time comes.
Man, I wonder, could you put Michael Wooten there?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's because it seems like the closer he moves inside, the better he is. Like he's better.
Keep sliding him over.
Yeah. Why not? See what he's got. I mean, kind of the camera played tackle and guard, and then made the transition. Why not Michael Wooten?
I don't know what they look for in terms of body types. I don't know. Obviously you have to be really smart, and you have to be able to snap the ball. So all of those things factor into that, but I don't know. That would be my number one position. And then it depends on what you lose and that sort of thing. They're trying to, build a program.
Yeah.
With young players, like high school recruits, and bring them in and develop them, which is a little old fashioned these days, but I think you kind of have to do that if you're at a school like Arizona.
Yeah. As far as guys that, they're going to look for in the portal. I mean, they love what they see out of Coleman Patman, the freshman behind, the other guys right now. Swade Griffin, they like him a lot as kind of like the eventual successor to Traden Stukes, but they have Gavin Hunter right there. Like Gavin Hunter is going to, step in either at that nickel spot or maybe one of the safety positions. So defensive backs in a really good place right now.
Yeah, and even with the guys they're bringing back on the defensive line, you can never have enough pass rushers. So maybe someone who can play off the edge, maybe a cornerback, because they're losing some guys in that room. Right, Dansby and Garnes, I think, right? Are both?
Yeah, Garnes for sure.
Yeah, so Cole, Javion Cole should be back. Marquise Groves-Killebrew should be back, but maybe someone at that position. Again, you can never have enough offensive or defensive linemen. So that's kind of always a thing that you're looking for in the portal. All right. Steve Buchanan says, it seems as though we have a good stable of running backs. What is our percentage or running versus passing? Are we utilizing the running attack enough, or is the passing attack being forced to fulfill the purpose of the air raid type design? Steve sent this before the Kansas game, right, where it felt like they didn't run the ball enough until the last drive when they decided we're going to run the ball on almost every play and march down the field. I have definitely felt that a little bit at times this year, like they need to run the ball a little more. And I think we'll probably ask that question of Seth Dagey when we talk to him on Tuesday. What do you think about the balance or the lack thereof?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that, they have faced some teams that have kind of dared them to throw the ball, and that's exactly what they did, and they were successful, right? Like they did it against Oklahoma State. I feel like there were times that Colorado did that, but I would like to see Arizona really establish the run game and get those guys going. But then again, those guys were also banged up too throughout the course of the season. Like Kendrick Risino missed a few games. Quincy Craig wasn't quite 100%. So it's kind of been like Ismail Mahdi shouldering the load. And he's also, dealt with a little bit of nicks and bruises as well. So that stable has not really been healthy. Now they are. And it's actually really coming at a really good point of the year where all of those guys are healthy. Knock on wood. They got 3 games left, and all of those guys, you kind of feel like they're starting to kind of hit that 5th gear a little bit. So I think that health has had something to do with the balance, but also some of the teams that they've faced, they've had 8 guys in the box, and it's allowed Noah Fafita in that passing game to get going.
So if you look at just rushing attempts, now this is not filtering out sacks. This is just raw rushing attempts. Arizona is tied for 11th in the Big 12 with 306. West Virginia with Rich Rod is number 1 with 462. They've also played one more game than Arizona. A handful of teams have played 10 games in the league. There's a website called teamrankings.com. I don't totally trust their figures. Like, I've done my own calculations on these things, and they're usually not exactly the same. But according to them, Arizona has called for rushing plays. Let's see, 47.42% of the time, which ranks 101st in the nation out of 136 teams. So definitely on the low end. They also had like historically low rushing totals last year, but they were behind a lot in those games. Different offensive coordinator, but still, I think it's a good point. I mean, their running backs rushed for 139 yards on 15 carries last week, and the offensive line was struggling in pass protection. So to me, that says they should have run the ball more. Right? You want to help out your offensive line. That's the best way to do it.
Well, they did in that last drive, right?
They sure did.
Yeah,
a couple of those were designed quarterback runs, but man, when they sprung those 2 inside runs to Quincy Craig, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Seth will just say, "I was setting them up for that the whole game."
Yeah, just building them up, thinking we're going to throw, and then boom, hit him with the run game. And credit to Matthew Lotto as well for stepping in at left tackle. I asked Brent today, why didn't you put in Rhino Tepatotai? Because Rhino played, he was the starter at left tackle last year. So I'm like, and he's been kind of like the unofficial 6th lineman, right? Whenever one of those tackles goes down, Rhino steps in. And Brent was just like, Rhino's been playing at right a lot, and Lotto's been our backup left tackle. So we decided to go with Lotto. And Lotto, give him a ton of credit, man. I know he struggled last year as a freshman, but he made a couple of key blocks there on that final drive, especially that one where Quincy Craig scored that touchdown. I initially, when I saw it live, I saw Chuba Mai make that great block. And then I went back and watched the film. You said it, Lev. You were like, no, Lotto made one hell of a block. I was like, interesting. I went back and I watched it. Lotto and Mai, that left side, was a really big reason why that lane opened up and Quincy Craig was able to break off for a big run. Yeah,
we should note that it is expected that Ty Buchanan will be fine and will be able to play against Cincinnati on Saturday. So he should be back in at left tackle. All right, I've got 2 more from the app formerly known as Twitter, and I also have one email. This one is from Jason CR, and this is right up your wheelhouse, Justin, because you just wrote about this. What is our best case scenario bowl game, and how do you see it playing out? Getting there seems like we could have momentum for a great end to the season. Well, the very best case scenario is actually the college football playoff. It's not mathematically impossible that Arizona could get to the Big 12 championship game and win it. I don't think that's going to happen. Many, many things would have to happen. I still think it's going to be Texas Tech and BYU in that game. I think Arizona's going to have a really hard time beating Cincinnati this week, but that's the very best case.
Yeah.
What are some of the realistic possibilities?
ABS. Anything but Shreveport. That's with all due respect to Shreveport and the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. I just look at the other options and they are just a little bit more enticing. I would love my 2 favorite choices for Arizona, the Sun Bowl in El Paso, and the trendy pick is Arizona versus SMU, which is kind of fun because SMU is in the same state and yet Tucson is closer to El Paso. Like SMU is like 9 hours away from El Paso, Texas, and Tucson, Arizona is 4 hours away. So, and I would love the idea. Considering with travel and the way things are going right now with planes, knock on wood, hopefully my travel isn't affected this week. It'd be nice to get in a car and go to an Arizona bowl game and go to El Paso. And, I think you've been there before, Lev, at the Sun Bowl, where it's just like, they treat people with so much class, and it's just like this great experience. And I think you said it on our video, like they roll out the red carpet for the teams, for people that are willing to come out to El Paso. I've never been to El Paso before. And so I think it'd be nice to, drive 4 hours and go see Arizona play in this bowl game, play against the Pony Express and SMU. So I'm all in on the Sun Bowl, but of course the LA Bowl going to play at SoFi, the stadium of my favorite team and the Chargers. And they're also, playing against, a Mountain West team. Right. And I've seen some projections having them playing against San Diego State, which would be the Danny Gonzalez revenge game. Linebackers coach Josh Bringale coaching against his former team. Like, talk about storylines, man. I would love that. And the presenting host is Rob Gronkowski, the guy that played at Arizona. So LA Bowl, Sun Bowl, Lev. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I have been to the Sun Bowl stadium. I have not been to a Sun Bowl game.
Okay.
Arizona played there in, I want to say 2016, I think. Yeah, I think it was one of the first games of 2016. So made that drive with Zach Rosenblatt and Greg Hansen. Carpooled with GH and Zach. Those were good times, to be sure. But yes, like the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl here in Tucson, very important to the city. Like, that is an important event for the city of El Paso. Arizona hasn't been there in a really long time, and I'm sure they would love to have the Wildcats and their fans. I don't know, hard time getting them out to Arizona Stadium, but maybe people would be willing to make the 4 hour or so drive down to El Paso. Hey, you don't have to get on a plane, as you mentioned, right? So that's kind of, especially during the holidays, it can be expensive, it can be stressful. Road trip, always preferable. LA Bowl, I've never been to SoFi Stadium. I have heard it is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, awesome venue. I will never complain about having to go back home to Los Angeles. I used to live in the LA area. And it's always nice there. So either one of those two works for me. I saw on ESPN another possibility, the Armed Forces Bowl.
Yeah.
The Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl against Army. That's in Fort Worth, Texas. So, a relatively easy place to get to. You can fly into Dallas from just about anywhere. It's a hub for American Airlines. So that's another one. Just a reminder, as we mentioned on our video after the game, we're still in the period where it's Pac-12 bowl affiliations, most likely, although they could run out of spots and then it reverts to Big 12. It's a whole weird thing. Like, you can't even necessarily look at the standings at the end of the season because they pick the teams and they don't necessarily pick them in order. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's nice to be able to have these conversations for a change.
And the Armed Forces Bowl location of that, Ammon G. Carter Stadium, it's the scene of the crime where Tetsuo McMillan became the all-time receiving yards leader at Arizona when they played against TCU last year. So they've played in that stadium before, didn't have the result that they wanted, but they're very, very familiar. But any of those bowls I'm down for, just ABS, anything but Shreveport.
That was probably the only highlight of that game, honestly. All right, one more from Twitter/X, and then we got one from email. Sean asks, if the Cats go 9-3, does Brennan get an extension? We have reached the contract extension phase of the show here, where I think all previous conversations with about Brent Brennan were, will he be fired at the end of his first season, or midway through his second season, or after his second season? I don't think it's necessary for him to get a contract extension, but if they do go 9-3, that would really be something. That would really truly mirror what happened in 2023, which was what their record was at the end of the season. After being 3-3 and winning their last 6 in a row. Do I have that right? Yeah. They finished 10-3 with a win in the bowl game. That would mean upsetting Cincinnati, winning at home against Baylor, winning the Territorial Cup. Like, whoa. I don't think that's going to happen. But if they did, Brent would at least have a little bit of leverage if he wanted to go and, go into Desiree's office and have a conversation.
But, the thing is that it's a different scenario between Jed and Brent, because, Jed, and to his credit, it's been used to his benefit and he's very successful and he's made a lot of money, but he's also an opportunist, right? And at that moment, it's like, oh man, look at what Jed did to revive Arizona football. and bring him into national relevance, we need to pay this guy or else he's going to go take that next big gig because he's the biggest name on the market right now. And part of that too is Jed also kind of like looking elsewhere as well. I mean, Lev, you and I were very close to the situation during that time. Like Jed, he had wandering eyes. Brent Brennan doesn't have the wandering eyes. Brent Brennan isn't looking at the next opportunity. This is the opportunity. And so, I don't think he's going to go in there and be like, hey, Desiree, cough it up or else I'm out of here. I'm going to UCLA. That ain't happening. Like Brent Brennan's, he is here to stay. He's going to retire or get fired here. But if he does go 9-3, well, maybe throw him an extension, because certainly where they were at the end of last year, what he has done with the program and just kind of the culture change that he's establishing and that will carry over, it's better to lock him in now.
I don't think he cares about money.
No, not at all.
I think if he went into that room, into that conversation, he'd ask for more money for his assistant coaches.
Assistants, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
Or more, like, how can we get more NIL money to buy players or to pay players, quote unquote, salaries. He's one of the lowest paid coaches in the league, maybe the lowest, one of the lowest in FBS. And I just don't think that matters to him. It's just not that important to him. He's fine. And he totally understands that. He also moved from San Jose to Tucson, right? So the cost of living in Tucson it's way more affordable here than San Jose. And he's talked about that with his assistant coaches too. That you can just have a much better lifestyle out here than you could out there.
Especially raising a family.
Right? Yeah, we've heard some things about that from some people. All right, last one from email, Dan Heinfeld. Will we be getting the Houston Fafita or the Kansas Fafita the rest of the way? Since going 24 for 26 against Houston, he's 27 for 50 in the last two games. Granted, there have been drops by his receiving core, but he could have had 4 interceptions in those two games as well.
Yeah.
Good question. Now, he was player of the week coming off the Colorado game. It was a low volume. He only played 2.5 quarters. Was 11 for 19, 4 touchdown passes. There were a handful of drops in this last game. He was only 16 for 31, only 158 yards. Could have had 3 picks.
Yeah.
One of them not his fault at all. It was a drop by Chris Hudson. One of them was overturned by penalty. And the third one was also negated because what happened on that one?
Did he drop it?
Oh, yeah. The third one was just a flat out drop. It was like a slant pass for Hudson, and something was up in that game with him and his receivers. Like, they just did not seem like guys were not in the spots he thought they were going to be. I don't know if that was like the coverages that they were getting. Again, these are good questions for Seth Diggy. And I also think the pressure was an issue.
Yeah.
Kansas was able to get free rushers a bunch of times. Sometimes, like, he found a hot route. He was able to kind of pass the ball around those guys, but he was under duress a lot. They did a good job of preventing him from escaping especially to the side when he likes to buy time. So I give a lot of credit to Kansas coming up with a good scheme. But to Dan's point, it would be nice if Arizona had that Houston version of Fafita the rest of the way.
Yeah. I mean, especially just to kind of build up the confidence of the receivers and Noah. It's getting those quick passes and just kind of getting that momentum. Then you can really start to open it up, because then, maybe the defensive backs play up more, and then maybe you can start to take more shots downfield to some of your big time playmakers like Java Watley or Trey Spivey. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see the offense kind of open up more, but I also think that the offense, I mean, when it's all said and done, is so much better than what we saw last year. Even in like the low moments, right? It was still a product that could still kind of move the ball down the field or find some sparks. Whatever that offense was last year was just complete awful. I mean, it was bad. Whatever that was, it's not what we're seeing this year. So yes, is it perfect this year? Absolutely not. But when you compare it to last year, remember last year had one of the best playmakers, if not the best playmaker in Arizona history, in Tetairoa McMillan. I think that this offense is a much better place. And they also, I think they do a really good job of kind of reading the defense, kind of reading the room, and eventually figuring it out, right? They understood late in that game, okay, we can't just pass the football because that's what they're expecting. Let's run. And they did exactly that with a couple design runs with Noah, Quincy Craig up the middle. Like, these are runs up the middle, right? These are runs, these are plays that you have in the middle of the second quarter, not when you're on 2-minute offense trying to get the ball down the field to score a game-winning touchdown. So this staff, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to adjust the defenses.
Yeah, we've been monitoring the ADOT for Noah, right? The average depth of target, which was that game against Houston was the lowest of his career. Average depth of target was only 4 yards. It spiked up to 12.2 against Colorado. It was 8 yards against Kansas, which was the second lowest of the season. I think that's a good range for them to be in. I was surprised, though, Justin, they didn't throw any bubble screens that I can recall in that game. And those were really effective for them in each of the previous 2 games. And it felt like they finally figured out how to actually execute those plays correctly, right? Which it felt like for about a season and a half they couldn't. So I was surprised they didn't do that, because it's sort of an extension of the run game. It's a way to get the ball out quickly, get the ball into your playmakers' hands, and just kind of let them, do some damage. So I don't know, maybe we'll see the bubbles return here coming up against Cincinnati, which very good team.
Very good team,
by the way.
Brendan,
go ahead.
I would say Brennan said a lot of good stuff today about Cincinnati. He said this is the best team that they have faced all year long. And I'm like, whoa.
Best team, best quarterback, fastest team. Like, okay. Maybe he's right. There are those, the Arizona skeptics out there will point to their schedule. But they did play BYU, right? Which is still number 12, I think, in the AP poll, even after losing against Texas Tech. That's probably the best team.
Yeah. Healthier Iowa State.
In my opinion. Yeah. Iowa State, which rallied to beat TCU, finally ended their losing streak. Kansas State, I think, is a good team. I would say that Cincinnati is probably the second best team that they faced, but this is kind of what coaches do, right? They always like to butter up the opponent heading into the game. Brent's not gonna, he's always going to play it that way. He's not going to get involved in, and he's not going to give the other team any sort of bulletin board material. No way.
Get Scott Satterfield to blush a little bit about his great team.
Yeah. I will say, like, I would be shocked if Cincinnati did not come out and run like QB power with Brendan Sorsby in this game. So Arizona better be prepared for that. I'm sure they will be. We'll talk to Danny Gonzalez on Tuesday about what to expect from Cincinnati, but he is a big, strong, mobile quarterback who kind of fits that mold, doesn't mind running inside. That's going to be an issue. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday.
I almost feel like you got to get one of those, like, walk-on defensive backs to play quarterback this week, or like get one of your bigger guys to be Brendan Sorsby. With all due respect to like Sawyer Anderson and Mason Bray, Mason Bray's actually a really good athlete. So
yeah, I was going to say Mason Bray is that guy for them, right?
He's quick as hell, but is he as big as Sorsby?
I don't know. He was in the game, Justin.
I know.
He was in the game in the fourth quarter. It seemed like they were going to run some sort of trick play. Like Noah was lined up to the right side in the slot. I don't know what was going to happen there, but Noah ended up turning to the official and calling timeout.
Yeah.
So something wasn't right. Brent Brennan totally just like he brushed off that question. He did not want to reveal what was going on. And I don't blame him for that either. I kind of thought we might see a trick play in that game. And it was set up for that. But that was also kind of a weird time to do it too, like a tight game in the fourth quarter. Usually not when you pull out the tricks. So I don't know. I don't know what the Mason Bray package looks like. We'll have to find out maybe in the future.
Proprietary information, Captain. Don't know what you're talking about. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast. Please subscribe on Apple and Spotify. Check out the video version and find all of our work on Arizona football, Arizona basketball. High school football's in full swing as well. There's lots happening in the Tucson sports community. We've got you all covered on the Wildcaster mobile app, also Tucson.com. See you guys later in the week.